My name is Mansur Umar Kurugu. I am a senior program officer with Equal Access International, and I oversee our component of our project under early warning and early response across all the communities that we work. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and all the best for this presentation.
Okay, so
hello guys.
International designs our projects through community-driven solutions. This methodology catalyzes systemic norms change by combining direct community engagement and participatory media and technology. Our projects are designed around the experiences, opinions, and solutions of the communities we partner with. Every program has multiple touch points that integrate community solutions and feedback. We call this a generative feedback loop. Today, we'll demonstrate how this approach led to a successful early warning, early response system driven by communities across northern Nigeria.
Northern Nigeria has continually witnessed violent conflicts, and that predates the independence. So irrespective of what part of the country you reside in, you are not spared from the devastation and the challenges that comes with it. If you notice, the picture we have on the screen there is a picture of a community that was attacked and most of the houses razed down. So the survivors just came in the country to see what has happened and to take stock of their losses. So in northern Nigeria, this becomes consistent and a continuous daily occurrence. And if you look at the history of violence in northern Nigeria, started as far back as around 1945, when we started having issues around Kasuo Magadi in the north. Very recently, we could remember the Metasine crisis of Kano Jimeta in 1982, Jimeta in Adamawa State. Then the Kafanchan crisis of 1987. We had the Zangwan Kataf crisis of 1992. We have the Sharia riot after independence, after the transition to democracy of 2000. And then we had the Miss World crisis of 2003. And then we had the violent extremist attack of 2009. Then we have the post-election conflict. So every part of the north that you reside in, you're not spared of this one-time effect of the destruction and the tension that comes with it. And from the year 2000, we realized that the military has become a permanent member of our community. There is military presence in everywhere because of this proliferation of conflicts across the communities. And that has stretched the competence and the capacity of the military to its very last ebb. And with that, it's impossible for them to respond to everything that is happening. And that is what has led into looking at how do we strengthen the whole system of community security architecture, because there is a dearth of boots on the ground from the security agencies and security institutions. So irrespective of what part of the country you live now, especially in northern Nigeria, there is this issue of consistent threat to safety and security. And we have the kidnapping for ransom, the banditry, and the turnaround that it had in 2009 when it led into whole issues around violent extremism. That has become a challenge. And the more it happens, the more it proliferates the war economy, and more reasons and appeal for people to get into this kind of venture becomes more appealing. And that is why in the Securing Nigerian Community project, we try to create a system that will strengthen community security architecture and get everyone involved in ensuring that safety and security is everybody in the community's business.
In response to the insecurity Maji just talked to us about, Equal Access International designed the Securing Nigerian Communities project, a 4.5-year project funded by the US Department of State and implemented across 12 local government areas, or LGAs, in the 4 Northwest and Northcentral states of Benue, Kaduna, Kano, and Plateau, as a response to the underdevelopment and conflict prevalent in northern Nigeria. Equal Access found that effective and legitimate governance systems remain weak across Nigeria, particularly in northern rural areas. Community systems of leadership are often seen as biased, corrupt, politicized, and inaccessible to women, young men, persons with disabilities, and in many cases, minority ethno-linguistic and religious groups. The quality and availability of state infrastructure and services have noticeably declined in recent decades, while there are indications that state coercive control is increasing. And civilian harm has been perpetrated by all parties to the conflict, including armed opposition groups, the Nigerian security forces, and community self-defense groups that have emerged in the face of the Nigerian state's inability to ensure civilian protection. Through our research, our experience implementing in the country since 2014, and interviews with stakeholders, partners, and beneficiaries, we identified gaps in the existing security architecture. While some of these gaps were out of our control, such as the number of security personnel, we found that many gaps could be closed through increased communication. As a social and behavior change communications organization, this is where we really focused our efforts. Now, we know that individuals and communities are those best suited to identify threats and risks to their own safety. But we noticed a breakdown between individuals and security forces in the escalation of those threats. The identified risks were not communicated to those with the power and responsibility to act on them. And when they were, responses were often disconnected and delayed, with little cooperation among security forces. Those delayed or absent responses had created a lack of trust among communities and security forces. By building the capacity of and connecting these communities with the appropriate security forces, we were able to build trust and create a shared responsibility around security. While not specific to the security architecture, responding to intercommunal conflicts became time-consuming for security forces. Therefore, building connections between different community groups was key, such as farmers and herders, Hausa and Fulani, and Christians and Muslims. Fostering dialogue opens the door for mediation, which can often de-escalate situations before they become violent. Equal Access International determined that a structural system was needed to fill these gaps. And that is why we created an early warning, early response ecosystem with the goal of preventing and de-escalating violence within our target communities. The early warning, early response ecosystem is the backbone and center of everything we did under the SNC project. Everyone we trained under this project has a role to play within the early warning, early response system. Now, if you're not familiar with early warning, early response, you can think of it as a very effective and coordinated neighborhood watch system. This was achieved by making security everyone's business and empowering those with the contextual awareness to effectively and efficiently report threats or issues to those with the ability to act on those reports. Here you can see a visual representation of the ecosystem we built. We'll break this down as we go, but basically this system flows from the bottom up, with our early warning system at the community level, escalating up to the early response system at the more formalized state security level. The key element to the successes achieved through this ecosystem comes down to the connections that were built between these two groups. Equal Access International established two formal structures to facilitate these connections. Those are our civilian security platforms, or CSPs, and our community accountability forums, or CAFs. And now we'll break down each of these structures. So the civilian security platforms, or CSPs, are made up of citizen monitors at the grassroots community level, acting as reporters or warners in this system. Equal Access International trained 8 CSP facilitators from each LGA, meaning 96 in total, on how to participate in civilian security structures and how to establish the platforms in their own communities. The training focused on community mobilizing, communications, networking, peace building, social cohesion, and how early warning, early response can be used as a tool for violence prevention and mitigation or de-escalation. These CSP facilitators were then tasked with contextualizing their learnings and catering to their own individual community needs. they proposed their own communication tools and reporting structures, ensuring that the platform they ultimately established would be sustainable and successful within their individual contexts. Not only did these facilitators return to their communities and establish their CSPs, but they were also tasked with sharing their learnings with other community members, further expanding reach and impact. Because of this integral step, there are now 125 functioning civilian security platforms across the 4 SNC states. To further strengthen the platforms in the communities, the facilitators were connected with other groups of people equal access trained under this project. This created the necessary support and synergy required to implement a successful warning system. As you can see in the diagram here, that includes women and youth peace builders, peace promotion fellows, psychosocial first aiders, and advocacy and media engagement groups, ensuring that these platforms and facilitators are not functioning in silos. The early warning, early response systems are the unifying thread that runs through the Securing Nigerian Communities project and ties our successes together. I'll now tell you a little bit about each of these other groups. The project's first objective is to empower youth and women-led action in peace and security. This objective is aimed at increasing the number of women and youth in security structures and decision-making bodies within their communities. To achieve this objective, Equal Access trained over 500 women peace builders, or WPBs, and youth peace builders, or YPBs, which also includes our Peace Promotion Fellows, or PPFs, which were a group of youth selected to participate in Equal Access's signature tech camps, which focused on community peace building. The YPBs and WPBs were trained in areas such as conflict analysis and mapping, peace building, social cohesion, networking and community mobilizing, communications and advocacy skills. Now, an interesting aspect of the CSP is the incorporation of trauma awareness. The project includes an objective on building trauma resiliency. The unending cycle of violence in these communities has affected trust and relationships among residents, magnifying existing tensions and generating feelings of frustration and desire for revenge that can produce a cycle of trauma and re-traumatization. Equal Access International selected and trained over 200 psychosocial first aiders, or PFAs, to support citizens to process their vulnerability and feelings of victimhood. To facilitate this, the PFAs set up listening centers in free of charge community spaces to ensure sustainability in their respective LGAs to provide counseling services at no cost. The PFAs were then integrated into the CSP due to their unique perspective and exposure to individual communal tensions. Over time, we also incorporated local businesses, real estate agents, and tricycle taxi drivers into the CSP to capitalize on their experiences and observations within their own communities. The more perspectives and coverage included in the platform, the more reliable and extensive the reporting will be. There are 3 key elements of the CSP that make the scalability of these platforms so successful. The first is inclusivity. The CSP is a human structure, and as they operate in such remote areas, very little technology is utilized at this level. The reports made to the CSP largely come in the form of verbal and face-to-face reporting. This ensures that no one is excluded from this process due to socioeconomic status, lack of access to the internet or smartphones, or literacy levels. Simply by being a resident of these communities, you are empowered to take an active role in your own community security. The more inclusive the platforms and the community-led involvement, the more easily scalable to neighboring communities. The next aspect is sustainability. The structure is built on a sense of volunteerism, and the reward is stronger, safer communities. Because these are not paid positions and there are no costs incurred by members or communities beyond their time, these structures are sustainable far beyond the project's funding. The community buy-in achieved by the CSPs has further strengthened and scaled these systems and resulted in community donations in the form of vehicles, office space, and direct funding to further sustain and expand their efforts. And the last aspect is the amplification. Tackling insecurity in this region is a very tall order, and the constraints of funding, human resources, and time meant that Equal Access International was not able to personally train the number of people we would like to. Therefore, the individuals trained became trainers in their own right and were tasked to step down their trainings within their communities, maximizing the number of people actively involved in the civilian security process and further strengthening their communal security. This resulted in greater awareness and reporting, which led to greater prevention of attacks or other communal conflicts. This creates a positive centrifugal force wherein the more successful the system, the greater the community buy-in and support. The greater the community buy-in and support, the more effective these systems become. These three aspects of the design resulted in greater scalability and reach beyond just the individuals and communities Equal Access International directly interacted with. Now you can see here the types of issues most commonly experienced in reporting in these states. Community members are encouraged to report any issues or threats of potential issues to a member of their local CSP. The members of the CSP collect information based on their own observations and reports from other community members and analyze the threats and risks to safety. If the report is deemed an immediate threat to life or security, the CSP members can immediately escalate the issue to the appropriate authorities, such as police or community leaders. However, if it is not deemed an emergency, the CSP can act in one of the following ways. They can attempt to mediate the conflict using the skills they were trained on by Equal Access International, or for more serious situations, they can escalate to the next structure in the early warning, early response ecosystem, the community accountability forums, which we'll discuss further in a few moments. But now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Maji Peters, to tell us about the actions, results, and evidence of success of the CSPs.
Thank you, Andrea. With the CSP, the Civilian Security Platform, we try to ensure that right from the beginning, we created the whole idea of sustainability. So what we did was to start with what we call a community consultation, where we went into the communities, met people in the community, and explained to them what we intend to do, how we intend to do it, and we wanted their buy-in. And when they liked the whole idea, we had a conversation around what it would look like to set up a community security architecture. And because the focus is for early warning, early response. And when we did that, the community were able to nominate people within the community that they feel could fit into that role. So we went in, we did a training of the people that they nominated. And before that training, we went back to the community to do a sieving of the participants that they have selected. We engaged with them. We did the initial documentation and profiling of the participants. Then we did a training where they were taken through the whole area of peace building, conflict analysis tools, context analysis, looking at security checks, the threats to security, what it is, the social cohesion, community resilience building. When all of that happened and they were trained, then they went into the community and reported back. This is the training we have received, and this is what we intend to do. The community created free spaces for them that ensured sustainability. Thereafter, the CSP, those we trained, became the CSP facilitators within their wards, which is at the very grassroots level of the community. And the CSP went ahead to recruit other people of like minds within their own ward, and they did a training of trainers. So they trained them too so that they could be part of the whole thing, and they will be involved in the whole idea of setting up their formal and informal structures for civilian security platform. So that enabled us to maximize impact and to spread the effectiveness and the willingness by putting in more people that will be involved with it. And with that, over the space of the project life, we have over 100 CSPs that have been established in communities. And the whole slogan is, when you see something, say something and do something. And the CSP has created an avenue where voices of women and youth can be amplified. Hitherto, their seats have always been vacant in tables where decisions have been made about community safety and security. But with the training that they have gone through, with the involvement of the committee in their nomination, then they become a voice that need to sit on the table. So their chairs are no longer empty. So that brought about inclusion and integration of women and youth in the security architecture of their communities. So the voices of the men were amplified, their capacity were built, the youth had opportunity, they started playing more positive roles within their communities, which has been very important, and it had increased the whole framework of social cohesion in those communities. And what made this thing very acceptable is the capitalization on available technology. They don't need to look for very high-tech IT things, because we want this thing to happen in very rural communities. So what do? They make sure that they had what is very cost-effective on their phones. They had WhatsApp groups. They passed information through voice notes. They could do it by face-to-face interaction and highlighting to people that this is a threat, this is what is happening. This doesn't used to happen in this community before, but this is what we are noticing. So they had dedicated phone lines and groups where these things could be happening. And many a times you could just make a phone call, and there already has been a synergy where they have been connected to how they could escalate these threats within the communities where they function. So the whole idea of having the community buy-in is the strength of the CSP in the community level, because everybody within the community knew what they were doing. They know they're doing it for the good of all, and they could easily relate to them. Some other people, when they see threats in the community and things are not going right, they actually call members of the CSP and report those issues, and the CSP members could escalate. And in a lot of other communities, they have sensitized the people because they shared dedicated phone numbers and phone lines and say, if you see something that is not normal, that is not usual, that looks like a threat to the peaceful coexistence and to the cohesiveness that we enjoy in this community, please don't hesitate to call these numbers. And most of the time, because those are dedicated phone lines, we always experience rapid response, because it's always easy for the people to be mobilized. It's quite easy for them to get ready and prepared. It's very easy for them to respond to those calls that have been made. And with that, a lot of successes have been reported, and that has been recorded and documented. A lot of other people are getting involved with wanting to see, how do we start this? And so most of those that were trained through the training of trainers that the facilitator did have actually gone ahead to start training other people within their communities and creating the proliferation of the CSPs. So the high number of civilian security platforms we're recording are not directly people that were trained by Equal Access alone. It is a snowball effect of the training that Equal Access have given that we're benefiting from. Because those that were trained, because we did a training of trainers, went back into the communities and recruited other people of like mind that they could relate to it, and they're training them as well. And some of these meetings that we see happen in very informal places, in the place where they hang out, in the viewing centers where they sit down to watch TV, in the local tea vendors shop, or in just anywhere around the community where normally they stay to spend time together. That's where they share those threats and share those conversations around peaceful coexistence. And another great outcome that has come from the formation of this CSP, it has strengthened relationship, it has built trust within the community, and people feel more stakeholders within the framework of development and growth in the community where they reside in. So those are benefits that are coming from the CSP because of the engagement and the relationship that they are having, because constantly they engage, constantly they relate, constantly they discuss, so constantly they strengthen the bond and relationship, and they keep getting a lot of things that could bring them together and do more things together for the growth of their community. Those are a lot of great results we have received from the CSP that have been formed.
Thank you, Maji.
Now, in northern Nigeria, our communities actually faced an escalating crisis where schools, which were once beacons of hope and learning, were shuttered due to the pervasive threat of kidnappings. Now, between 2020 and 2024, over 3,000 of our children were abducted across 23 incidences, and this actually instilled fear and disruption in our way of life. Recognizing the urgent need for action and the capacity building opportunities on inclusive civilian security, we embraced the opportunity and formed the Civilian Security Platforms, that's the CSP, a grassroots initiative aimed at reclaiming our peace and safety and securing the future of our children and communities at large. So we actually had to identify the need, which was opportunity. The challenges were immense. Our children's education were jeopardized. Our economy was crippled, and the social fabric of our communities were unraveling. So traditional security measures were actually insufficient, and we understood that sustainable change required our direct involvement. We saw an opportunity to harness our collective strength and local knowledge to address security threats head on. And that was what brought about us coming together and being with the CSP, the Community Security Platform. We were motivated by a sense of responsibility. We embraced the CSP framework, which empowered us with the understanding of early warning, early response, that's the EWA systems, community vigilance, and collaborative problem solving. Our dedication actually stemmed from our roles as parents, educators, and leaders within the community, how it is. And then we were determined to create an environment where our children could learn and thrive without fear. And every community member could live in peace, for that's what we all want. We just wanted peace for all we did. Now, through the CSPs, we engaged in continuous monitoring of our neighborhoods, identifying potential risk and suspicious activities. We established communication channels with local law enforcement, ensuring that information flowed swiftly and effectively. Having public awareness campaigns, cascading, and every other thing became a cornerstone of our strategy. Educating fellow community members on recognizing and responding to security threats as they see them. And then our collaboration extended to organizing community dialogues, fostering trust and strengthening social cohesion. And that was where the synergy came up. We now had that synergy to build. So aside having to build strengthen our social cohesion, one thing our efforts actually bore in numerous instances, like on February 17, 2024, in Teshed Iche community, that's the Kaju local government area of Kaduna State. One of our vigilance members observed 9 youths on motorbikes, which was a common indicator of impending bandit activity. So utilizing the EWA system, he promptly alerted the authorities. And this swift action led to a coordinated response involving the Nigerian police force, the Nigerian Security Civil Defense Corps, that's the NSCDC, as we know them, and local vigilante groups, effectively averting a potential attack. While in Ngogo, Kano State, another CSP member, that's a Community Security Platform member, noticed unusual activity at a newly rented house. Trusting his training and instincts, he reported his observations, leading to the discovery and apprehension of a wounded member of a notorious bandit group. So these interventions not only neutralized immediate threats, but also reinforced the effectiveness of community-led security initiatives. Then, from it all, one thing that stood out is that we have across 125 platforms. Our CSPs have significantly contributed to enhancing security in our communities. And we're glad schools have reopened, children have returned to their classrooms, and a sense of normalcy is gradually being restored. Our proactive stance has fostered stronger relationships with law enforcement agencies, ensuring a collaborative approach to maintaining peace and security, which is just very, very paramount to all. And we all know that while we celebrate our successes, we remain cognizant of the evolving nature of security threats. Ongoing peace-building efforts, including capacity building and community engagements, are essential to sustain and enhance our efforts. We are committed to continuing our work, driven by the belief that community empowerment with peace-building skills is a cornerstone of lasting peace. And as it is, our journey as members of the civilian security platforms exemplifies the transformative power of community-led initiatives through unity, vigilance, and collaboration. We have taken significant strides towards reclaiming peace in our communities from the clutches of insecurity. Our story is a testament to what can be achieved when ordinary citizens come together with a shared purpose and unwavering commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. That is such it's so great to hear your unique perspective. Grace is one of the original 96 CSP facilitators that was trained by Equal Access International. And we're so happy to have her here with us. So now we'll move forward to the Early Warning, Early Response Escalation Platform, which again, we call the Community Accountability Forum, or CAF. The CAF is a leadership structure acting as the response arm of the ecosystem, and it operates at the LGA level, meaning there are 12 CAFs across the SNC states. The CAFs meet monthly to discuss reports and subsequent responses, as well as trends, successes, and challenges. Each CAF is comprised of facilitators from each of the CSPs within that LGA, as well as police, military, community leaders, both religious and traditional, peace commissions and agencies, situation rooms, national level security agencies, and community self-defense groups that have emerged due to the state's inability to ensure civilian protection. Excuse me. Locally, these are referred to as vigilante groups. And while this name carries a negative connotation in the US, these groups have garnered broad community support and have proven themselves to be effective and reliable first responders. Incorporating them into the CAF has created greater legitimacy for these groups and allowed for stronger collaboration and cooperation with the more formalized security agencies. The result has been greater community security while also affording the police and military the time and space to focus on the most serious threats. The monthly CAF meetings are chaired by the local government chairman and are held in accessible and free of charge community spaces to ensure inclusion and sustainability. The visibility of these groups and their meetings is a necessity because they deal with and promote community and civilian security. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, trust was one of the major gaps identified from the outset. If all decisions are made behind closed doors, trust is greatly reduced. Ensuring community buy-in requires community awareness, and this can't be achieved when community members are separated or secluded from decision makers. There are three key elements of the CAF that make it so successful. The first is the creation of first responders. This aspect is something that we take for granted here in the US. From just about anywhere in the country, you can call 911 and you'll be connected to your nearest first responder, whether that's police, fire, or EMS. However, before this early warning, early response system in these communities, threats or incidents of violence were reported only at the state level. And then individuals and communities had to wait for those reports to filter downward through each of the bureaucratic agencies until the appropriate group for response was reached. This resulted in long response times and often no response, negatively impacting trust and reinforcing the notion that your calls for help will go unanswered. The creation of the CAP flipped this structure of reporting so that the information comes from the grassroots level up and escalates as necessary, and resulting in the creation of first responders. Based on this structure, each group within the CAF has the opportunity to respond or escalate as necessary, all in a timely manner. First responders equal reduced response time, and reduced response time equals increased trust among community members and security agencies. Now, the second element is the shift from individual relationships and coordination to agency relationships. Before the CAF existed, and because there was no local reporting mechanism, a great deal of coordination between and within the authorities took place at the individual level, meaning individuals within these agencies built personal relationships with community members. And those community members would reach out to specific individuals for help or for support. However, as soon as an individual was transferred or reassigned to another duty station, that relationship was lost. Community members may even call for assistance only to be connected with someone now stationed in a different state, greatly increasing response time if there was a response at all. One of the greatest successes of the CAF has been shifting those relationships away from the individual and toward the institution. One of the most important examples of this is the establishment of permanent staffed reporting phone lines, which existed only at the state level before the Securing Nigerian Communities project. These are phone lines that are assigned to stations or positions rather than individuals who move from place to place and may or may not be available at the time of a reporting call. Like we mentioned today, the police officer that was initially joining us is unavailable for this call. So similar situations could occur when you're reaching out for help. This has been integral to ensuring timely response by CAF members. In a few moments, we'll hear more about how CAF members successfully achieved this and fostered trust within their communities. The third key element of success were the linkages and coordination among groups within the CAF. The first two successes focused on trust building between communities and security agencies. This third success is about building trust among the different security agencies. Creating a forum that brings together all responders allows for a more comprehensive view of the security situation and allows for the ability to identify and analyze trends. It also provides opportunities for collaboration with other security professionals and learning from the expertise, successes, and lessons learned of one another. Before the establishment of CAFs, many of these groups worked in parallel with one another, but rarely in tandem. Now we'll hear from Maji about the evidence behind the successes of the CAFs.
Thank you, Andre. The CAFs are the higher level of escalation that we have within the local government framework. So most of the time, when there is an escalation from the CSP, which is the Civilian Security Platform, it goes to the CAF, which is the Community Accountability Forum. And like Andre clearly explained, that is being chaired by the local government chairman, who is the chief security officer in that local government. Because they naturally have, every month, they have weekly and sometimes bi-monthly security meeting where all leaders of security organizations operating in those local governments attend. So that's where they create strategies for response and all of that. So the successes we have recorded in the CAF, in the 12 local governments that we have operated and we tried this under the Securing Nigerian Communities project, is creating a system where the structures that we had in the community will outlive the project. So what we did was to do a transition from the EWA groups in the community and transited into developing and grooming them to becoming a community-based organizations. So they are now community-based organizations that are legitimately registered with the state and local governments. So they now operate like a legitimate, independent, self-sustaining community-based organization. And they are already going into partnership, soliciting funds that they could use for their activities. And some of them, the community-based organizations have already gone further into creating systems of activities that they could do in the community to strengthen cohesion, to foster relationship, and to strengthen safety and security, and to contribute to the security architecture within their local government. And a lot of them now are already creating cells of how people could work and operate to ensure that the whole programming around development and growth is there to bring them together. And they are trying to address challenges and ills that makes threat to peaceful coexistence, extremism, radicalization, challenges becoming appealing to people. So addressing the push and pull factor that makes people want to become conflict or security threat entrepreneurs. And most of the CAFs we've got have gone into establishing and strengthening connection with all the local responders that they have within the local government that they operate. And that means after making that engagement and creating synergy between the law enforcement agencies, not just with the CAF, but with the people in the rural communities, in the CSPs, it has reduced response time drastically. And especially because there are dedicated permanent phone lines for reporting these incidences. So they're able to track through the hit counter and situation rooms to know the exact location where the report is coming from. So it's not just them reporting and trying to look for who to talk to or who to get. Because of the permanent lines, once they call on those lines or send a message on those lines, the response is faster. It has taken away having to go through intermediaries for them to get people that will respond. So that has been a very good success that is behind and that is evidence in the CAF that are operating in the 12 local governments across the 4 SNC states. Right now, we have 116 reports that have been documented across the target local governments. The reports that have been given about threats, about planned attacks, about issues that could have led to violence, we've had 116 of those cases reported and documented. And we've had reports that have been worked on that has brought about reducing threats and reducing attacks in communities. And the more these reports come, the more the synergy of the security institutions working together becomes easier. And we have had 38 coordinated responses facilitated by the CAFs across the target local government areas that have led to repealing attacks that is going to happen in the community. That's the picture of a CAF feedback session that we're seeing. And we could see the person in the uniform there is a member of the Nigerian security organization called the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. So we could see community leaders, religious leaders, youths, women. In the other side of the whole place, we have elders. They come to sit down like that and do a viva and do a scan of their communities and give feedback. So there are times when they come for such meetings, what they will hear is, okay, nothing is happening in our community. We just saw this, we did this, we did that. So the CAF have created a platform that have taken away the entire bureaucracy that you need to report incidents and threats to life and peaceful coexistence. So it has opened up a platform where people could engage directly and report issues that threaten their peaceful coexistence. And that is making us record more peaceful communities. A lot of people are engaging better. And so the viability of the economic situation in those communities are bouncing back to life. Because the threats that they have, the fears, because there was a fear factor, there was a siege mentality. But with the people in the community being responsible for the strength of their security architecture and what they can do and how they could promote peaceful coexistence, it has gone a long way in ensuring that the economic system, their life, their businesses, what they do is coming back. So the commerce in those rural communities are getting their lives back. So the Community Accountability Forum has really stood the test of time. And we've gotten feedback from local government chairmen who are saying, thank you for bringing this idea to us. It's not just us now providing security for people in the local government, but people in the local government are helping us to provide that security because whatever they see, they share with us. A divisional police officer in Benue said that we have made their job easier because they can only work on credible information. And it's people in the communities that have those informations and have access to it. So those are the successes we'll be recording in our community accountability forums that we call CAF for short.
Thank you, Maji, for adding more insight about what Community Accountability Forum is. And I'm sitting in here for Iliya, Chief Superintendent Officer, who is unavoidably absent, to share some of the specific impact the CAF and the EWA at large was able to create in his own community. So Gezawa, just like every other community in northern Nigeria, has been affected by different kind of insecurity, conflicts, different challenges that people are finding it very difficult to cope with. And it is making the traditional form of security inadequate to resolve all of those issues. So that is one of the reasons when Iliya, who is the divisional police officer in Gezawa, saw an opportunity coming in their direction around establishment of the RD1 and RD response, and with the understanding of the composition of CAF, just as Andrea had defined it, he quickly embraced that opportunity and integrated into its own system at the police divisional level, and also integrated into the community security architecture. And that what has helped in fostering trust and communication between the security agencies, which comprise of police, civil defense, vigilante, and then of course the traditional aspect of the security, like the traditional leaders, religious leaders, and of course youth groups, women groups. And now the community have a tool which they are able to utilize to reduce the insecurity and conflict within their own communities. That is why they felt now they are empowered. They are no longer waiting for the security agencies from the state level to come and solve their security issues, because they already have a first responders at their local government level. So when Iliya and their people, that is the CAF members in Gezawa local government, have seen the opportunities, they just see the need for them to join the whole movement, because they understand their communities, they understand the need of their communities, and they know within their own communities they need to have, you know, non-traditional approach as solving their security issues, where the community members will be part of the whole process. A lot of them are parents, some of them are teachers within the community, some of them are traditional leaders, and then of course the safety and security of their communities is of utmost priority, and that is why they felt they need to join the whole aspect of CAF. And then from Iliya and other security agencies, their primary role is protection of the life and properties. And when they saw this opportunity from Equal Access coming their own way, for them to be able to work with the community, get access from the CSP, get information from CSPs on timely manner, get more community members to work together with them in resolving intercommunal issues, work together with the communities with the understanding of what security means, they quickly take it in. And that is why we are able to have seen how the CAF or the EWA in general was able to bring more peace and safety to Gezawa community, and of course the neighboring local governments. So as a result of working together with the communities, they were able to have taken a lot of actions. As you can see this picture, these are some of the women from other communities that were able to have sat down and talk. Actually, this picture, the story behind this picture is, they said this was the first time that in any kind of setting, women were asked to share their own feedback and inputs on how to safeguard and secure their own communities. So they felt like now the security of their own communities is their own, they have a contribution, a role to play. So they consider this whole EWA as a critical tool for them to prevent and respond to security threats in their own communities. And of course, the EWA group, under the guidance of the local government chairman and CSP Haruna Iliya, were able to facilitate regular meetings, which they do it monthly. And in Gezao communities, we have noticed how the participation of people in such meetings continues to increase. Initially, they were having the meetings with people around 20 people, 25, but it goes to the stage that every month now, when they are going to do their EWA monthly meeting, you will see hundreds of individuals coming into that meeting, and from different walks of life and from different age dynamics and different stages. So that is showing the interest, increase in the interest of what the CAF and EWA in general is doing in Gezao local government. So some of the impact of the work of the EWA group in Gezao local government, just like in every other local government, is that they were able to have respond to issues more quicker than it used to be, because now they have more information early, so it makes them to become more proactive instead of security agencies to always stay after there is an attack, after some lives and properties might have been lost. That is when they can respond. Now they are able to respond even before the situation escalates. And of course, they were able to have reduced incidences of armed robbery. According to Haruna Iliya, he mentioned that from 2022 to second quarter of 2024, he, in his own divisional police office, they have recorded 80% decrease in crime rates, which is very significant, I think, at a certain level, especially considering how situations are, especially in Gezao with all its borders and the rest of that. Also, he was able to have recorded the arrest of over 100 criminals, and these are people that he had gotten early warning information from the communities, not other issues that they were able to have intervened at their levels. So generally, Mr. Ilias was saying they have noticed, a significant transformation, and they were able to have set a precedent for regions facing similar challenges. Like he kept on mentioning at the different platforms in their security meetings and at other platforms that if other communities can have a tool like the EWA they have in their own communities, and he believed the security challenges we are facing in northern Nigeria, particularly Northwest and North Central, would significantly reduce. Because for him, he's not talking about theories and possibilities and things that could happen. He's actually talking about things that he has done together with the community members and how it helps to rebuild trust. It is a common situation in Nigeria. I don't know about other parts of the countries, that security, especially police and community members, the trust between them is not very, some appreciable. But he said he have seen how community were able to rebuild their trust with the security agencies. And he kept on mentioning that he is more confident now to go into the communities and meet with the people and talk to them. And they are happy to come to him. They are happy to send information. And of course, he decided to provide a dedicated phone lines. Just when Andrea was mentioning previously that there are dedicated phone numbers where people can report. In Gezao, they even take it to one step ahead. They have dedicated phone lines attached to their patrol vehicles. We call them patrol and guards. So now when a community member, a CSP, have seen any security threat, they have the phone number that they will call. And when they call, they are calling people that they can drive the vehicle and go into the situation and address it. So that is why Mr. Ilias is always happy to say this approach is helping him to do his job easier. And of course, when they are speaking with the traditional leaders, they always mention how effective the security of Gezawa local government in Kano State has become. So this is Mr. CSP Haruna Iliya. This is not Mansur. So what he also mentioned is that the kind of composition that CAF is having, you know, it is having people, traditional leaders, security agencies, religious leaders. So because of such kind of combination of the participation, they were able to have handled complex challenges in their own communities. Some are purely insecurity, some are intercommunal issues, some are even social issues. So because of the kind of individuals that sit every month to discuss and analyze security issues in the Gezawa local government, they were able to have solved complex security challenges. They are able to create even a more safer and more resilient communities where it's not every small thing that would trigger violence in the communities. And of course, they are looking at the way that these efforts could be expanded across northern Nigeria. In several reports from Iliya and his team, other members of the CAF, they kept on emphasizing on the need for this kind of initiative to be spread across other parts of the northern Nigeria, because for them, they saw it as an effective tool and its support in building peaceful and secure future. So that is what I have, but I have Margie coming in again, or Andrea, to speak more about some of the successes of the AWA ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansur. Yeah, and it's good to come in now after you've reeled out most of the great things that CSP DPO has done. And I think one of the greatest successes I always talk about around the framework of the early warning, early response, the EWA system, is the sustainability. Like in Ungogo local government in Kano State, after they did their training, they set up their CAF structures and their CSP offices. Somebody in the community made a donation of money that was enough for them to pay for office for 2 years. So they have an office where they could go to meet and do everything. And within the same local government, somebody gave them a vehicle, a van that has become a patrol van that they're using every time they're going out and they're going around the community. And it has made response even easier for the security agencies, because there's not just an office, there's a patrol van that is always there that they could use, and people in community make contributions for petrol, gas, as is popularly called in most of the other places. And coming back to Gezawa, in Gezawa local government, we have had cases where community people have sent text messages and the police have responded. One of the very good, successful one that we're talking about was when robbers blocked a road and they were stopping travelers and they were robbing them of their goods, threatening their lives and everything. Because they called the dedicated phone number in the patrol vehicle, instantly the people on duty went, they were able to repel that attack, they were able to drive away the robbers, they arrested one, and they recovered the arms that they were using. And it was part of some of the things that were brought to one of the CAF meetings we had in the community at that time to report that the whole framework of early warning, early response within the local government is very successful and it's working very well. Another good example is in one of the states that we're working in, Kaduna State. In Chukwu local government, there are two neighboring villages that are separated by a river. So because they operate market days, once in a week they have market days. Mostly when the market day is about to happen, on the market day, you have the canoes ferrying people across the river, and the canoe walks till late in the evening. But whenever it's not a market day, the canoes don't walk beyond 10, 11 because of those that just have their irrigation farming for vegetables and fresh fish. So they sell and they go. This elderly person was in his farm and he noticed motorbike going towards the riverbank towards evening about 4 p.m. And he just said, this is not market day. There will be no canoe to ferry them. Why are they going in that direction? And he was part of the community awareness of, if you see something, say something and do something. So he told the CSP facilitator in the community and said, this is what I noticed this evening while I was in my farm. The CSP facilitator told the community leader, who told the divisional police officer. So they put the P&G, the patrol and guard people, on standby, that this is what they have seen in case of anything from that direction. At about 12 midnight, they saw bandits wanting to attack a village, but because they already have the information, it was easy for them to repel that attack. The bandits were taken on because they didn't know there was people noticed them, so it was easy for them to repel that attack. That was a very good one that happened, and it encouraged a lot of people to get involved in the EWA structure. In Gwe West local government area of Benue State, we have members of the CSP forming themselves into a neighborhood watch. And because they are part of the neighborhood watch and they rotate when people are on duty to serve, to volunteer to serve as neighborhood watch. So most of the times in the evening when there is anything that is happening, since they are not asleep, they are the ones that will see it. And because they are playing the role of neighborhood watch, it is easy for them to call the security agencies, the response mechanism for them to respond immediately. So they volunteered and they have that neighborhood watch and they strengthen their relationship with the security agencies. And so response in that community has been faster, and for a very long time, they've not had all these bandits, abductions, and these robbery attacks in those communities in the night. Then in Jama'a local government area of Kaduna State, the women in their CSP went ahead to discuss with the security agencies, especially the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and they complained that the rising case of crime that they are having is the constant abuse and the availability of drugs. So they did what they call the drug raid in the community, places where illicit drugs are being sold, places where they sell harmful drugs. They raided those communities and they swept all of those people who are selling that. And that has reduced the rates of people that sell drugs within that community, and it reduced the number of people that engage themselves in issues of criminality, crime and criminality. And in Ungogo local government of Kano State, there was a vacant house, a house that was vacated by a tenant. And looking at the culture of the people in that part, naturally, they always live in a community with families. And it was a large house. So some CSP members within that community realized that that vacant house has been taken by someone. The person who rented the house, it's a large house, but they've never noticed either a child or somebody coming out of that house. They only know that somebody goes in and out maybe in the evenings. So they escalated that, and the divisional police officer got a warrant to come and search the house. When he came into that property, he realized that the person there had a lot of military uniforms, and during investigation, they understood it's one of those people that they had a gun duel in Zamfara State. They are kidnappers. So the military attacked their camp, they killed some people escaped. He's one of those that escaped with gun injury. So he went to that village, got a house, and he liaised with somebody who will be coming to treat him until he gets well. But when the people in the CSP, because they're very alert to things that happen in their community, they flagged that off. And that was how he was arrested. And finally, there's a very important one that happened in Barkinladi local government in Plateau State, because mostly they always have these reprisal attacks between the indigenous people, farmers, and the pastoralist herders. So when there's an attack in the village, they say, okay, the herders have come to attack them, and they will look for how to go for a reprisal attack for vengeance. And if they attack any of the herders, either their cows or anything, they do the same thing. And sometimes they just block the road and they start looking for people that remind them of people that have attacked them. So in one of such incidences, there was an attack in a community, and they believed that the Fulani herders are the ones that attacked that community. So the villagers came and blocked the road. And while they blocked the road, there was one of the Fulani persons that was coming back from a travel, and he was in the vehicle. For vengeance, they brought him out and they killed him. The members of the CSP realized that the Fulani community are not going to take this very lightly. He is not the person that did the attack, and now they are killing an innocent person because of what has happened to them. So they escalated that to the CAF, and instantly the CAF members and the local government chairman called the chairman of the Fulani community, called the chairman of the farmers, and the leaders of the indigenous people in the community and the religious leaders. And they assured they're going to fish out the people that committed that crime. And when that happened, the Fulani community felt persuaded. The communities felt they supported them in bringing out those who are perpetuating those crimes. And since that time, when any community get attacked by the other, they always work together to make sure they fish out people who are perpetuating that criminality. We have a lot of success stories. And there is one that has happened too in Guma local government area of Benue State, where the people in the community realized that their neighboring Fulani people left, and they felt it was not a good way to live together because they are getting more and more polarized. On their own, they worked about bringing back the relationship that they used to have and creating a peaceful and a safe community. It was so successful that a documentary was shot about that. Let me allow you watch a clip from that documentary of the successful story that we have of early warning, early response in Guma local government area of Benue State.
In 2013, in particular, the crisis between the herders and farmers started, and by 2015, it seriously affected the community. I was having a lot of churches within this community, about 15 churches to be precise. All of these churches were burned down. The headquarters church where I am today, we had to run and leave the church. There was no church service that was going on in this place for some time.
Muna zama tsakaninmu da manoma da makiyaya. Wayannan manoma kuma sune al'umman kabilan Tibi. Mu kuma al'umman Fulani. Kuma sana'ansu shine noma. Mu kuma sana'armu shine kiwo. Muna zaman to lafiya tsakaninmu da su. Sai batun maganar siyasa ya zo sai an sa doka hana kiwo. Ba mu san me yasa aka sa wannan doka ba, da mu da su duka doka ya zo ya haɗa mu gabaki ɗaya ba mu ji daɗi ba. Ya za mu yi yanzu? Kun za ku iya zama tsakaninku da ku makiyaya, ku jama 'ya'yanku kunne a daina wannan kashe-kashe. Mun ce kuma za ku jama al'umma ku manoma ku jama su kunne a daina kashe-kashe. Suka ce sai muka haɗu ranar muka zauna a kasa mun ce kowa ya je ya jama al'umma sa kunne domin zaman lafiya ya fi komai da komai.
I'm happy because people come, we see us. There's no problem in our community. We see us interacting with many languages. Let's see example. Look at the Fulani women. They are my friends. They are coming to visit me frequently. In fact, they used to come here every day to come and sell nono for me.
Mun samu ci gaba game da abin da yake bayar da kamar tashin hankalkula da aka samu wani baya shiga wani, to yanzu alhamdulillah tsakanin addinai ba damuwa, muna gabatar da komai, duk wani abin da ya taru akan kira mu zauna mu haɗa kai mu yi bayani akai.
All this has come to be possible because of the training we have received from Equal Access International, because of the training we have received on how to handle conflict, what are conflict, how conflict come about, conflict analysis, and how to go about handling issues of conflict in our community, early warning and early signs of security breach in our community. This training we have received from Equal Access International, and this has gone a long way to help us to live in peace and also to handle any conflict issue or security breach that comes within our community.
All right. So apologies, we've gone a little bit over time, so we won't be able to take your questions, but I've put our contact information in the chat if you'd like to reach out directly. This presentation has demonstrated how community-led early warning and early response systems can be set up to ensure community buy-in for optimal success and sustainability, and what is possible when you build trust through connections and empower communities to be active participants in their own security. So for additional information, you can visit our website or our social media pages, or please feel free to reach out individually. Thank you for joining our session today, and we hope that you enjoyed.